everyone, welcome back to another video. If you saw the title or the thumbnail, you already know that in today's video I'm going to be reading 3 of my most anticipated new releases. Let's get to what those books are. First one is Powerful by Lauren Roberts. If you don't already know, this is a novella that follows the book Powerless, which is the first book in a new YA fantasy romance series, and I absolutely ate up the first book. I cannot wait for the second one to come out. And then Lauren Roberts announced that she was releasing a novella. I believe this is the same timeline of the first book, but we're following the main character from the series' best friend or something like that. Honestly, I don't know that much about it, but I have heard that the romance in here is really great, and it's just the tiniest little book ever. I just think it's so adorable, and I'm really excited to read this. I've been trying to avoid reviews, but the ones I have seen, people have been saying that they almost wish this would have been its own book because that's how good it was. So I'm very excited to get to this one. The next book I'll be reading in this video is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez quickly became one of my favorite romance authors in 2023, and I've been hearing a lot of people say this is her best book yet. I'm super excited. The premise sounds really interesting, and I have yet to read an Abby Jimenez book that I did not love. And then the last one that I'm sure a lot of people probably already guessed, because this is one of the most talked about books on the internet right now and one of the most talked about romance authors ever. We have Funny Story by Emily Henry. Just like Abby Jimenez, I have never read a book by Emily Henry that I did not love, and I'm very interested to see how this compares to my feelings for some of the other books she's written, because I've also heard people say that this is her best one yet, but for me it's going to be really hard for it to beat Happy Place. I don't know the order I want to read these in because I'm super excited about all of them, but since we have 2 romances and 1 fantasy, I think I'm definitely going to read Powerful in the middle somewhere. I just don't know if I want to start with Abby Jimenez or if I want to start with Emily Henry. I think I'm going to start with Just for the Summer first. Then I'll jump into Powerful by Lauren Roberts just for a genre breakup. And then I'll finish the video off with Funny Story. I'm really excited. I'm sure I'm going to fly through these, and I'm really hoping that I love all of these books, and maybe at least one of them will be a 5-star read for me. Literally only 1 chapter into the book and I look kind of crazy, but I just learned that the female main character's name is Emma, which is so cool because I don't read that many books where characters' names are Emma, which is kind of surprising because I feel like it's a really common name. Like, at least in my life, I meet a lot of other Emmas, but the basic premise of it is that the main male character, Justin, posts a Reddit thread basically about how he's like a good luck charm, and every time he dates a girl, they break up and she goes on to find the one. Like, always after a girl dates him, they find the love of their life, and then the main female character, Emma, finds the Reddit thread and is like, oh my gosh, this happens to me. So she decides to DM him, and that's as far in as I am, but they've like hit it off and they're kind of DMing back and forth. I can already tell this is going to be really fast paced. It's funny. I already like both of the main characters, and I'm only a chapter in, so I have a really good feeling about this. Okay, update. I'm on page 184. I feel like I'm about halfway through, but I haven't updated on Goodreads, so I don't actually know the percentage I am, but I feel like that looks like about halfway through the book, and I'm obsessed with it. This is feeling like it might be a 5-star read. I love both the main characters. I love all the side characters. There's already been some tie-ins to the other books. This is like an interconnected standalone type of situation, and I've already read the 2 other books it's connected to, so there's been characters to pop up from those, and I love the way it kind of connects everything. And I just feel already like very emotionally connected to the characters and the storyline, and that doesn't usually happen for me, at least in romance books, especially when I'm only halfway through. Like, there definitely have been other just contemporary romance books in the past that I felt deeply emotionally connected to, but that doesn't really usually hit me until the end, and I'm only a little bit in and I already feel that way. So I feel like that's a really good sign, and one of my favorite things about it is that it is a rom-com, but it does deal with some more serious topics, and both of the main characters of the story have more serious, more realistic, deeper things they're struggling with in their lives, and so that makes them feel more real to me as I'm reading. But at the same time, it's so funny and relatable in that sense, so both the humor and emotion of it are so relatable, and I don't know, I just love it. Abby Jimenez, like, I don't know what she puts in these books, but they're literally addicting. I don't want to say this too early, but this might be my favorite one yet. It's going to be hard to top Yours Truly because currently that is my favorite one by her, but if this book keeps going how it's currently going, I think it could beat it. I think I'm gonna cry. I'm only on 246, but the relationship between the main female character and one of the main male character's siblings is so sweet, and I don't know, it's just tearing my heart apart, but like in the best way possible. Like, I'm eating this up. I do not know how Abby Jimenez does this. It's such a fast-paced plot, but it somehow manages to make me feel so many things at once. I'm on page 319, and all I have to say is the taking care of someone when they're sick trope, and also acts of service. That's it. That's all. I have no other words. I cannot wait to finish this book, but at the same time, I'm like trying to slow down because I'm not ready for it to be over yet because that's how much I'm loving it. So there was just an insane plot twist that I literally predicted from like one of the first few pages, and then I thought I was losing my mind about the plot twist, and I'm on page 342 and it just confirmed this. I will say I'm not going to give any spoilers in this video, but if you're going to read this book, read the other interconnected standalones before you read this. So start with Part of Your World, then read Yours Truly, then get to this, and it will make the story so much more impactful. Like, my mind is blown. I wish I would have gotten my reaction on camera. Five stars. Thoughts to come later because I literally can't comprehend. Little update, I'm flying through this book. This is only 66 pages in, so it's even shorter than I thought it was going to be. I know it's a novella, but it is like a little bit insta-lovey. Like, I feel like the plot is progressing too quickly, which I do like a slow burn, and this definitely isn't one. Like, it's very trope heavy, if that makes sense, and we're only 66 pages in, but I'm not mad about it because I'm like sitting here reading it and like giggling, kicking my feet. Like, it's definitely giving me all the feels. I don't know why I expected more of a slow burn because it is such a short book, and I knew that going into it. It's all happening very quickly, but I'm definitely invested in the characters and the story. I am a little bit nervous because, once again, no spoilers, but if you've read Powerless, you know what happens at the end. This is taking place at the same time as Powerless, so I'm a little bit nervous because I know what's gonna happen, and I think it's probably going to rip my heart out. A couple more thoughts, because I feel like my last update made it seem like I wasn't enjoying the book. I am enjoying it a lot, and I do think like it is my own fault for expecting more of a slow burn, and I think that's just because Powerless was such a slow burn, and I shouldn't have gone into it with those expectations because it is a novella. And also, these characters are very, very different from Peyton and Kai. In Powerless, Peyton and Kai, it's like very much like they're both the grumpy type, and there's a lot of banter and slow burn and tension, whereas this one is more of a grumpy sunshine dynamic. And the banter is still great, and I will say Lauren Roberts knows how to write a love interest. She knows how to write a man. The fact that it's trope heavy, I'm not minding, because those are the things that she wrote in Powerless that I loved so much. It's just happening more quickly in this than I was expecting to, but I'm still really, really loving it. And I'm loving both of the characters. Even though I'm only 70 pages in, there's still good enough character development for me to feel invested in the characters and the relationship. So I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. I do think like once we get more into the meat of the story and like what that plan is and how it's going to be carried out, I'm going to be loving it even more than I am now. Horrible angle, horrible hair, horrible lighting. Just pretend you don't notice. This book. For starters, I finished this basically in one sitting, which I do know it is really short, like it was 220 pages, I think, and it is a small book with big font, so like I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but like I really got through this quick, and I don't know if I'm just becoming a faster reader or if the way this was written was just so good and so fast-paced that it made it easy to fly through it. Probably a mix of both. I currently think I'm sitting around like a 3.75 total for this book. I do agree with what a lot of other people on the internet have been saying, and that this would have been better if it was a full-length novel. I feel like even though the character development was great and the plot was compelling, I would have just enjoyed it so much more if it was more like threshed out and we spent more time developing the characters and the plot. It's almost like the events of what's happening in here were shoved into too short of a timeline, and the pacing of it was also a little bit strange. Like you would go from one chapter where things were really picking up, and then the next chapter you're jumping to like 2 weeks in the future, where I'm reading it wanting to know like what is happening in that 2-week time period that we're kind of just skipping over. I know these are technically side characters of the story, but they are such enjoyable characters that I wish we would have gotten more of them. And I think if I could have gotten more out of their relationship and even just like the more mundane things, I would have loved them even more. It's almost like if you took a full-length novel and took out everything except the exciting parts, which is kind of making it sound like that might be a good thing, but I would have enjoyed this more if there was more of an ebb and flow to the plot, whereas it almost read more just like full speed ahead. There was always something happening, and it didn't really allow for any anticipation of what was going to happen. But that is me being super picky with it. I also never will rate a novella over, like, I don't know if I've ever rated one higher than 4 stars. Most of the time for me, novellas are like around a 3-star if I really enjoyed it, and then lower than that if it was just mid to me. So considering I'm giving this 3.75, don't think that's bad. I still really enjoyed it. I just simply can't rate it higher. 1, because it's a novella, and 2, because there's just more I felt like we could have gotten out of the story and the characters. The ending absolutely broke my heart. If you read the first book, you already know what happens, and it's even more heartbreaking to read from the perspective of the characters we're getting in this book. I am really glad that Lauren Roberts wrote this, partially just because I loved being able to be back in this world, but also because knowing Adina's story gives more depth to Peyton's character, I think, and going into Reckless, I think I'm just going to appreciate the characters and the story and everything just so much more because I read this. I do also think where I had heard so many raving reviews going into this, I had a little bit of higher expectations going into it than I might have normally for going into a novella. This is just me being really picky with this book. I'm gonna give myself some time to sit on it because I did finish it literally just now, and I finished it very quickly, so my thoughts and opinions may change over time, but for now that's how I'm feeling about it. I did really love this. Lauren Roberts' writing just has a way to like suck you into the world and get you so invested right off the bat, and this made me even more excited for the next book in the series to come out. I'm not gonna spend any more time yapping on, and I'm gonna jump into Funny Story, our last book for the video. Update on Funny Story, and I'm at Bryce's house right now. That's why the setup looks a little bit different and the fan might be kind of noisy, so just ignore that. This book has such an interesting and like funny premise, which I guess makes sense because the book is called Funny Story. But basically you have Daphne and then you also have Miles, and Daphne was engaged to Peter, and then the night after his bachelor party breaks off the engagement with Daphne to be with his childhood best friend who confessed her love to him. And that childhood best friend had been dating a guy named Miles, who she is also leaving for Daphne's ex, if that makes sense. So basically you have Daphne and Miles, who both just got broken up with, and their significant others are now going to be with each other. And so Daphne and Miles come up with this arrangement to live together because obviously they need new living arrangement just for the time being until they can get things settled. And they're both in like the post-breakup depression. I'm not far in enough to be able to tell how I really feel about the characters, but Daphne is a librarian, which I think is a cute little touch. I've noticed Emily Henry, with all of her female main characters, will have their profession be something to do with writing or reading or the publishing industry, and I think that's really interesting because there's not a lot of female main characters that have professions like that. And then Miles, I don't know much else about, but so far I'm not like loving him. Like, he's kind of giving frat bro vibes, but once again, I feel like I can't really make a judgment on him yet because I don't know that much. I'm not very far in, but that is the premise of the book. I did a horrible job at explaining it, but I'm enjoying it so far. As always, Emily Henry's writing is amazing, and I'm excited to continue and see how I like it. Update for you all on the book and kind of just how I'm feeling about it currently. I'm about 100 pages in, but I feel like not much has happened. It's not like the story is slow by any means, because Emily Henry's writing style is just so easy to like get sucked into, and the flow is very nice, but it's mostly just been like their daily lives. It almost has like a mundane feeling to it, and I can't remember if I felt this way at the start of other Emily Henry books, but I'm kind of feeling like compared to some of her other books, the plot is just a little bit more simple, at least so far. Just don't feel like I feel the connection between them yet, which once again, I'm not that far into the book, but I feel like at the 100-page mark, I should at least be feeling a little bit of chemistry. And this is just me being super picky, because like I said, the writing is fantastic. It's really easy to get sucked into and easy to fly through. But as of right now, I don't think I'm loving it as much as other Emily Henry books I've read. It's also really late right now, so I don't even know if I'm making sense. I'm liking it. I'm not loving it. It's still a great read. It's still that amazing Emily Henry writing, but something about it just feels a little bit different than her other books, and I'm interested to see if the entire story will continue to kind of just be this more mundane kind of daily life feel to the plot, or if things are gonna pick up and the chemistry is gonna pick up. I don't know, we'll see. I know in the last update I was saying I didn't feel like the main characters had that much chemistry, but like, tell me why I forgot that Emily Henry has spicy scenes in her books. Like, I remember Book Lovers specifically thinking that one was pretty spicy, but honestly, I have no recollection of like super spicy scenes in the other books. Like, I remember there being a couple moments here and there in the books, but we're on 142, and like, this is steamy. Like, I don't even feel like I'm reading an Emily Henry book right now. Like, I could be wrong, but this is like going on multiple pages now. And if my memory serves me right, she does not normally do like long, detailed, spicy scenes. I'm now on page 264, and I'm hoping I'll be able to stay up and finish it tonight. I'm liking it a lot more than I was in the first 100 pages. It still has that like mundane, like daily life feel to it. Like, there will even be paragraphs where it's just explaining like she went into the kitchen and she did this and she grabbed this and this. But the way Emily Henry writes it makes it still entertaining to read, and things have definitely like started to pick up. The plot's more exciting now, and I'm definitely loving Daphne and Miles's chemistry a lot more. I'm interested to see if there's gonna be like a third act conflict and what that will be, because I feel like there's a lot of different directions that could go in, because there is so much underlying conflict. Still currently, like, I don't feel like this is going to be a 5-star read or anything. I am really liking it though, but I can say with certainty it's not going to be my favorite Emily Henry book, but that's not to say it's not still amazing. I finished Funny Story by Emily Henry last night and late last night, and I wanted to give my initial like thoughts and reaction when I finished the book, but then I realized I kind of just needed to sit on it, sleep on it, think about it, because I didn't truly know like what the rating was for this, because I felt so torn. After sleeping on it, I think I am gonna go with 4 stars overall. Like I said, I was so torn because literally a couple updates ago, when I was like in the beginning of the book, I was saying that I don't think I was saying I didn't like it, but I definitely wasn't feeling the same way about it as I have some of her other books. This is a really strong word to use, but I was feeling a little bit let down. And then my words came back to bite me, because as soon as I made that update saying it felt slower and more mundane and more simple, and that I didn't feel chemistry between the characters, things really started to pick up, and that made me realize I need to complain about books less and give them a chance before I pass judgment on them. But also, every time I do that, anytime I whip out the camera to like make a complaint about what I'm reading, it ends up getting really good, like right after I say that. So maybe I should keep doing that. But anyway, it did start picking up. I could feel the chemistry between the characters. I was invested in the plot. I will say, I think the biggest thing for me that made me unsure of what to rate this is that I had a great time reading it. I loved it. I loved the characters. It was such a fun and creative plot line, but I just did not feel as emotionally invested in this one as I have some of her previous ones. Now, I have never rated an Emily Henry book lower than a 4-star, and that is simply just due to how amazing the writing is, and that stuck true for this too. I love how Emily Henry can take this cute rom-com premise and turn it into a literal masterpiece just with her words. So even though, like I said, this did seem to have a little bit more of a mundane, almost daily life plot, if that makes sense, it was so entertaining to read and so beautifully written. Like, Emily Henry could make someone reading the newspaper sound interesting with how wonderful her words and writing are. Not saying I went into it expecting it to be a 5-star, but I did kind of go into it with the idea that it potentially could be a 5-star. Now that I finished it, I've watched some more like TikTok and YouTube reviews, and there seems to be very, very opposite opinions about this book. Some people are saying it's the best Emily Henry book, it's their favorite, and then others are like me and kind of saying, like, not that they were let down from it, but maybe that they were just expecting to love it more. And I want to make it very clear that, like, me saying I felt let down has nothing to do with the story, has nothing to do with Emily Henry's writing. It's simply just me, and that I didn't feel emotionally connected to it, and that is a me problem. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys like my Emily Henry tier ranking. I'll put it over here. So we still have Happy Place at the top. I'm convinced that no book Emily Henry writes from here on out can beat Happy Place, because it just has such a special place in my heart. Then right below that, I would say kind of tied for each other, we have Beach Read and Book Lovers. Most people, Beach Read is their favorite, or it's like tied for Happy Place, but I actually read Book Lovers first, so I don't know if that's why I rated it so highly, because it was my first experience with Emily Henry. But those two are definitely tied for each other. One might be a little higher than the other, but I literally can't decide, so we're gonna say those two are tied. Then we have Funny Story right below that, and then People We Meet on Vacation I'm gonna put at the bottom. I still really enjoyed that book and loved it. It was also a 4-star for me, which is what I'm rating this, but I do think I liked this one just slightly more. One other small note I will make about this book is that the female friendship dynamic in this book was amazing. That was one of my favorite things about the story. I'm not gonna say too much else because I don't want to give any spoilers, but there was just something a little bit lacking for me in order to give it a higher rating than a 4. Once again, a 4 is still really good. I don't want people to come at me because I did still love this book and really enjoy it. Let's go through all 3 of the books that I read for this video, some of my most anticipated releases of 2024. First up, I started the video with Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I'm trying to think how much of a review I gave of this because I feel like I didn't really talk about it much. This was an easy 5-star read, and I think this might be my favorite Abby Jimenez book so far. Abby Jimenez has such a way about her writing where you could be on the brink of tears on one page and then laughing on the next. She truly does rom-com in the best way, honestly in a similar way to Emily Henry, where they are cute, sweet rom-coms that make you giggle and make you kick your feet and have the butterfly feeling, but at the same time you're so emotionally invested in the story and the characters, and there are underlying themes of some more serious topics going on, which I really enjoy and appreciate because it makes the characters feel more real and it's easier to relate to them. I absolutely loved everything about this. I highlighted so many quotes in this, and I don't know, it just really hit hard, and I honestly think this is Abby Jimenez's best work yet. I will say, if you're going to jump into Abby Jimenez, they are all interconnected standalones, so it doesn't really matter what order you read them in, but the set of standalones this is in, I would highly recommend reading in order. So read Part of Your World, then Yours Truly, then Just for the Summer. I did not read them in order except for this. I read it last, and I wish I had. Specifically this one, whatever you do, make sure you read the other two before this because I think it'll just make it so much more impactful. Again, I don't want to give away why that is because there would be some minor spoilers, but it just added so much to the book knowing that I had read the other 2 books first and knowing what happens in those. I'm literally not making any sense. It's still early. I love this book. I haven't stopped thinking about it since. This was just perfect, and I have nothing else to say about it. This was an easy 5 stars. Like, the second I closed the book, had the 5-star feeling, and it also made me cry. So then I read Powerful by Lauren Roberts and ended up liking this a lot more than I was expecting to. I think I wound up giving this 3.3 or 3.75. I honestly can't remember, but it was somewhere in the 3.5 to 4 range, I believe, which, like I already explained in the video, is really good for a novella in my opinion. Usually it's hard for me to rate novellas high because you're not getting that much out of it, but somehow Lauren Roberts managed to pack so much into this tiny little book. And I just had such a fun time reading it. I myself, like many other creators who have been saying this, think that this book literally could have been its own novel, and I would have enjoyed it more because I would have gotten more character development and the story progression would have had a better pacing. But nonetheless, I still really enjoyed it as a novella, and it made me even more excited for the next book. I think it's going to add so much more to the next book and kind of shift my perspective on the characters and what's happening in the plot because I read this. If you have read Powerless, do not skip out on Powerful before jumping into the new book. Even though it's just about side characters, I think it's totally worth it. It was easy to fly through, and yeah, it was great. And then I'm not going to talk too much about it because I just gave my thoughts and explanation, but Funny Story by Emily Henry. Like all of Emily Henry's other books, this was so easy to fly through. Such an enjoyable and fun read. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it because I just gave my thoughts, and now I'm already ready for another Emily Henry book to come out, even though I know we probably won't get another one for a while. I highly recommend all of these books and all of these authors. I'm so excited that I'm finally through these anticipated releases. I've been waiting forever for these books to come out. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. I haven't really made this style of video in a while, but if you'd want to see more reading vlogs that are kind of themed, let me know in the comments and I can definitely make more of those. And if you want to check out my other bookish content, reading videos, wrap-ups, book recs, literally all of it, be sure to check out the other videos on my page. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it would really help me out, and I have linked my TikTok and Instagram in the description below if you'd want to follow me over there and check out my other content. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, and also let me know in the comments if you've read any of these 3 books and what you thought of them. Bye guys!